Podcast name, don't have a fucking name for it. It's the Mulligainz-Fitness podcast is what I'm calling it. And
Okay.
Rachel from the Mulligan's Method has joined us. Just one of the things, again, about the podcast I said at the very beginning and the intros, I try not to keep them too long. Essentially, I don't want this podcast to be something that's trying to sell the Mulligan's Method or sell whatever. It's literally just so that Rachel can share parts of her story and things that have helped her over a period of time and things that have kind of changed from the beginning to now and where she was struggling, so she can help people that are very similar to where she was. Essentially, the point of the podcast, I want to bring people in who have experienced different things. So far, we've had Kath, again, 50 years old, over 50, looking to push on her health and fitness and achieve so many different things. Then we had Gillian, again, similar story, struggling with her weight for a long period of time. And I think your story, the reason I've asked you to come in, is a little bit different. So that's the first thing I'm going to ask, is just explain to people maybe where you were last year or where you were when you were really struggling with your body image and everything. And again, it's kind of a consistent struggle. It's not that it's all disappeared. We're still working on it.
Yeah.
But I think explain to people just essentially who you are.
Because like I put this in my intro post. It's like, why are you here? And like we've spent a lot of time, I feel like, talking about why. And the purpose is not to look better or to be thinner. There has to be something deeper to it. Otherwise, you're just not going to want to stick with it. So for me, so my mum was like someone I think of as really fit, really healthy. She's been a midwife, so she's worked on her feet all her life. She cycles when she's not at work. She cycled the length of Ireland. She did that Mulligan cycle, did the Channel to the Med, did the length of France. Like she's really, really fit and healthy, and she's never had any health issues, thank God. And then 2 years ago, she was away on a golfing trip and she had a heart attack. Oh. And it was like a massive shock to everybody, like the whole family. We were just like, you wouldn't have ever thought there was any kind of issue underlying there. And thank God she's okay now. But it just gave me a bit of a wake up that actually no one's invincible. No one is, completely sheltered from any health issues. And then I was coming up to turning 30 and I was just like, I spent my 20s treating my body like a dumpster. And I just wanted to turn that around. But I was so anxious to go back into a gym because I had been like kind of similar, working on my feet, doing bar work, 20-30,000 steps a day, and then got into a desk job. And that's where the weight had started to creep on because it just wasn't moving.
Yeah.
And then like going out and drinking is a big part of work as well. And the weight had just crept on. Sort of think, right, a new decade's kind of like a new year, just a new chance to go into a new chapter of yourself. But I just was so caught up in, I'm not one of these gym goers. I'm not going to belong. I'm not going to be accepted. It was all up here. It was complete anxiety stopping me from doing anything. But I really wanted to do something because of how scared I was after what happened to Mum.
Yeah. I think, Rachel, that's so key in highlighting the fact that you felt so anxious, so nervous, especially at the beginning to get into any form of exercise. And like, just as I said, like I went through maybe the first application form that you would have sent across to me, and it was something that you did highlight is that was your starting reason was for your mom. But one of the things that you highlighted in that form was that you had the thing of, oh, I have this busy job, I can't do this, or I'm not able, I don't have the time. And that was something that you said that you wanted to get rid of, and you've successfully done that. But I think people looking at you now, and people maybe that don't know your story, you're absolutely fucking flying it with forms of exercise. There's a million different ones you've tried at this stage. The gym, then the running aspect, you've really pushed it on with the running, which is unbelievable. But you've shown that even though you've told yourself these stories of I can't do this, I'm anxious, I'm not able, I'm not as fit as everybody else was here, you were still able to get into it and push it on. How did you do that? How did you get into it, even though everything in your body was telling you you're not able to do it?
I think it got to a point where it was just like the consequence of not doing anything was too great then. Because again, I had this whole thing about I have to make sure I'm looking after myself because maybe there's that genetic aspect. I could have a weak heart. Something like that could happen to Mom again. Like, even though she's someone who's so fit, I had this like real sort of crisis point where I was like, I have to start looking after myself. And I went there's a gym like 5 minutes down the road from me. I've actually just moved gym there this week. But I was like, right, it's 5 minutes down the road. There's absolutely no excuse not to go. They were offering free PT sessions because this new PT had joined. And I was like, right, I'm just going to rip the plaster off. I'm going to go to this guy and I'm going to go for a free session. And then it'll just get me in the door because he's waiting for me. And I've told him I'm coming kind of thing. And then obviously at the end, he's like, "Do you want to sign up for my 6 week program?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can't like waste an hour of your time for free," and then say no. That would be
Yeah.
a bit uncool. So that was good in that it sort of got me just back in the gym, just over that first hurdle of getting in through the door, because it took me so long to get to that point. It was over a year of just sitting in this like paralysis of wanting to do something, but just being too caught up in, oh, I'm not going to look like everybody else, or I'm not going to, I used to be someone who was like that, and that's not who I am anymore.
Yeah.
But it was tricky because with that PT, like I did 6 weeks with him before I came to you last July. And it was just, maybe it's because he's a younger guy and he's going through uni and this is quite, new to him. Because I was quite vulnerable with him and said, look, this is why I'm here. It's kind of to do with what's happened with mum. And he was like, but are you going on holiday this summer? You wanted to look good on the beach? And I was like, no, man, that's not why I'm here, kind of thing. So, and then he put me on such restricted calories. I was on 1330. And I remember seeing his plan come through and being like, how the fuck am I going to eat 1300 calories a day? Like, that's going to be miserable. But then I was seeing changes and I was starting to like get a bit of momentum. The weather was really good last June as well. So I was out getting steps after work every evening, going to the gym 3 times a week. And I didn't have any exams or anything. So I had nothing other than work and then my free time around work. And then it was getting to my next exam, was turning 30. There was stuff happening, like my sister's hen. I remember saying to him, like, I'm worried about how I'm going to navigate this stuff because I didn't have a lot of social stuff on in my first 4 weeks with him. And he was like, you just have to decide what's more important. I was like, but my sister's hen is more important, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to sit on her hen and be like, oh, I can't have this round of Jaeger bombs because I'm already maxed out at my 1300 calories. Like, that's just not how life is. Like, I know I could give up the drink and stuff like that, but I just don't want to.
Yeah. I think
So
in that situation
it's just
it's so
feeling
much
like
smarter.
I got into a routine, but I just had the wrong person to help me navigate that.
Apologies. I think I cut across there by accident. My thing's a little bit behind, I think, Rachel.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're okay. Keep going because I thought that was brilliant. I was just going to say you're lucky because not a lot of people would recognize that. A lot of people would listen to PT and just feel even worse about themselves and think, "Fuck, maybe I should have this more important or this lifestyle goal should be more important to me." But I absolutely not. The fact that you clicked onto that was massive.
Yeah, because we got to the end of the 6 weeks. We'd had our first video call then, just sort of finding out about the Mulligain's method. And
Yeah.
I knew that I had got my place. And he was like, do you want to keep going with me? And I just said, respectfully, no. Like, I'm grateful for the fact that I'm back in the gym and I've gotten over that first fear. And I was like, you'll know that you've done a good job with me because you'll still see me here. Like, I was still very grateful for the fact I got over that like gym anxiety
Yeah.
through working with him for 6 weeks. But it was just the like life outside of your fat loss goals has to keep happening as well. Like, so last summer we had obviously Erin's hen, Erin's wedding. There's 30th hens, stags. That's just my stage of life. That's all relentless now. And you want to be able to do those things and enjoy those things, but it's just understanding the times where you'll need to dial up those things to dial back your fitness stuff, and then vice versa to kind of get back on track once that's done.
Yeah, I think bang on. And I think like it's so easy as a personal trainer coming out of college to feel because all you're fed, especially in college, in uni, wherever, all you're fed is that, okay, overweight is bad and having too much weight and that you need to bring them back down to these scientific BMI standards and all this sort of stuff. You're not taught the people skills and actually real life. You're not taught that. Essentially, you're blocked out or remove all of that. It's just 100% health, 100% nutrition. Here's the perfection. That notebook that you have and that textbook that you're given is just
Yeah.
perfection. So a lot of PTs and stuff will put out the perfection there to everybody. And that's not real life. It's impossible to achieve that. It's like if you've, I don't know, I always come up with mad analogies. It's like an electric car, right? You're told the electric car will travel 300 kilometers in perfect conditions, but life's not perfect. So your electric car might only travel 200 kilometers. And this is the thing that you need to, that PTs need to get more in tune with and more in line with. And it's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast as well is because even me, right? I'm 25 years old, I live at home. I still have a lot of learning to do with regards to like how many responsibilities there is, how hard it is to navigate weight loss and stuff outside of that because I haven't experienced it really yet. And that's where a lot of PTs miss out on that aspect. I just try to be as self-aware as possible. Like when I'm coaching, I try and coach people from a point of, okay, I'm at the same level. This person can teach me just as much as I can teach them, and I can listen back and forth. And that way I can listen, rather than being a coach where I'm above everyone else and I'll tell you exactly what to do and you're not as good as me because you don't look after your nutrition. It's like, no, fuck it. Fair play to you for being able to handle all that with all the hens and everything going on, and like for you to navigate what you have and still come out the end of this with results is absolutely fucking amazing. And that's essentially why I wanted to bring you in here and other people, because then you can share what's worked for you and help people out that are in a similar situation. Essentially what I started and what I wanted to do when I first created my Instagram, I never even had in my mind to coach anyone. It was more so just put videos out there and just explain my situation and try help people through the same. But I think for you as well, that thing of perfection, right? When I was going back through, BMI was something that you noted initially when you joined, that the BMI was getting to you and that you had to be this specific weight. Do you mind me shouting out what weight that it recommended? Not weight you are now, but what weight it recommended for you to be. Do you
Yeah,
remember?
that's okay.
Do you
Because I
remember?
remember looking at that and being like, "Oh, it's saying I'm overweight," and I was like, "Oh, it's just this big like shame thing with it." But I don't feel like that anymore. So no, go ahead.
So on your initial form, it was like I have. So it wasn't even I want to or anything. I have to get to 55 kg because the NHS has told me that that's
Yeah,
my perfect weight. How do you feel about that now?
yeah. I feel like you can't really do that because like I sort of feel like I'm almost reaching a bit of a plateau with my scale weight now, but I'm definitely stronger. Like I can see when I look at my body, when I tie up my hair, I can see definition of my arms. Like I
Yeah.
can see my body looks different, and the scale weight's not changing massively. But then that's probably muscle and the fact that I'm stronger now because I've been doing weight training, because I'm doing Pilates, because I'm doing running. You know that stuff. My body's different, and I know it's different because I have to buy smaller clothes again now, and
Yeah.
I can see it and I can feel it. So it's just sort of knowing that number on the scale can only tell you so much. It's taken such a long time to get there, though.
This is the frustrating part. So it's very easy to put like so again when it comes to coaching or when it comes to any sort of health factor side of things, people will push the biggest negative on you. So, oh, you have to be 55 kg, maybe you're 80 now or 90 now or 100 now. This is the number that you have to get to. This is what the scientific number is telling you is most healthy. Well, it's not healthy for you as an individual because they don't know your lifestyle factors, don't know what you're living. Like when you're typing in to get your BMI, all you type in is your height and weight. Okay, height and weight,
Yeah,
that's it. It doesn't take into consideration whether you have kids, you don't have kids, whether you're working a stressful job or not working a stressful job, or how many hours you have spare in the day, or how much time you actually have available to exercise. Now, I think everybody has some time to available to exercise, but obviously some people have more than theirs, and other people have less. I've way more than most people. Most people have way less than me. Why would their BMI score, which is the indicator of health, have to have the exact same marker as I have? Like it should be different. It should kind of take into consideration all of your lifestyle factors. And this is where BMI is off. It's a good metric for a wide range of people to check if a wide range of people are relatively healthy or not. But when it comes to an individual, it's fucking useless. And this is where it puts a lot of pressure on you as an individual to feel like I have to lose more, have to lose more, have to lose more. And this is why I think even over the last little
yeah,
while, with your weight and you noticing changes in your body and your body confidence, and actually realizing that that doesn't have to come from the scale weight going down, is going to save you in the long run. Because in the long run, if you kept going the way you were going before, where less weight is better and less weight, I need to get there, I need to get to 55 kilos, you're going to get down that low. And for a lot of people, you'll get down as low as that because, again, if you really have your mindset set to it, you will. And it'll feel like a form of happiness getting there because it's rewarding getting healthier and happier down towards that lower scale number that this tells me I should be. But when you get there, you're not going to be able to maintain it. And you're going to put all that weight back on. And the biggest thing with the BMI score, especially for females, is I don't know how much it actually takes into consideration that you have a higher essential fat level than lads. So than males, you have a higher fat essential fat level because of childbirth and pregnancy and your hormones and stuff like that. And also it doesn't take into consideration that if you're losing weight consistently and you're constantly in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose muscle over a long period of time. So if we're not weight training, we're just in a deficit trying to reach a certain scale number, we're going to lose muscle. Then when it comes to menopause, you're going to be fucked because your metabolism is going to be a lot slower, your muscle mass is going to be lower, therefore insulin resistance is going to be a lot higher. And when it comes to menopause, you're going to find it much more difficult to maintain a better, healthier, let's say, body. So the way that they're recommending, even though it seems perfect according to maths and numbers don't apply to human beings or bodies. It's very, very difficult. Even calories, right? When it comes to the calorie side of things, a lot of what we kind of worked on as well was understanding that you can eat more calories, even though that 1 calorie
Yeah.
calculator might tell you that you're only able to eat 1,200, and PT might tell you you're only able to eat 1,300. Well, the fact is, you can eat as much as you feel comfortable with, and we just reduce it down from there, and then you'll get into a deficit. It's not that these numbers are 100% accurate, or a calculator is going to tell you exactly what you need to know. It's trialing what works for you and what doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like that sort of, it is a mental game because you asked about sort of what changed. I think the big thing that changed for me very early on with you coming from that sort of other PT experience was think about exercise purely as a way to make you feel better. Because if you feel better after you exercise, you'll make better choices with food, with water, with steps. It's all momentum. Whereas the thing I think really helped me kind of crack that, and it's always a working thing, but it's something I go back to if I feel like I have fallen off the wagon a wee bit, is writing down what's up here. Because it's like we're so nasty to ourselves, we're horrible to ourselves. And whenever I write down what I'm thinking, I can look at it with a way more rational eye and go, that's mad. Like you've absolutely no need to talk to yourself like that. Or that's you're catastrophizing, or you're making this so much worse than it is. If you write it down, and especially writing down like literally in the car before the gym, oh, I'm too tired, of a shit day at work, don't want to do this. But then straight when you get back in the car after the gym, you can literally see in front of you. It's evidence that it's just good. It's waiting for you at the end of doing that. If you feel bad, that's the kind of key to unlock feeling better.
Mm-hmm. I think so many people get trapped in that thing of exercise for fat loss, and it's something I try to remove altogether. I think it's a thing that goes back to even TV shows or whatever, is like the fat person is always lazy, the person who has fat doesn't move around or just sits on the couch and does whatever. When actually exercise doesn't really play a huge role in fat loss anyways. It's more so to feel better. Like even if you're running marathons or running 10Ks or running 20Ks or whatever you're doing, you actually don't burn a shit ton of calories, and our body will counteract that always. It'll increase how many calories that we eat, so it'll increase the hunger levels, and it'll also decrease the amount of calories that we burn throughout the rest of the day. So when you're talking here about how you're feeling and switching your mindset to that, how I describe it is exactly what you said. Like if you're sitting in your car after work and you're tired, you're exhausted, you're feeling like shit, and you're doing exercise for the sake of fat loss, you're not going to get up and do it because you're feeling tired, you're feeling like shit, you'll just go back home. But if you're doing it and you know that it makes you feel better when you're sitting in your car and you're feeling like that, you know, okay, if I get up and move around, I'll feel better in myself. And then when you're feeling better in yourself after exercise, what's going to happen is you'll make smarter choices with regards to food and everything else like that. So that's where it kind of backhands the fat loss thing. But I think for most people, and I'm pretty sure I've said this to you a few times, and I've said this to a few people in the group, when you reach that point where, first of all, weight isn't the primary factor in why you're doing it. So you're doing it for other reasons, such as your performance goal, like trying to run a little bit further, lift a little bit heavier, getting into deadlifting, or when it comes to the weight loss aspect, when it's not our primary thing that we're looking at every week, oh, this is good, this is bad, I can't do this, there's other things in it. And I think when we start using exercise for the sake of feeling better, and for the sake of enjoyment, that's where this becomes sustainable. So I would have no doubt that going forward, that if you were finished up in a group or within the next 6 months, if I was just to leave you off and check back in with you, that you would either be further than where you are now or in a position where you are the same and still continue on with exactly that, what you're doing. 110% confident with that. And another thing that I'd be confident with that is, even if you did say, as you're saying here, fall off the wagon, the falling off the wagon is just not as much focused on my fat loss goals, maybe putting on a little bit more weight, which is normal. My weight fluctuates up and down 3 or 4 kilos. I don't really go much higher than that, but that's quite normal to go up 3 kilos when I'm away on holidays, enjoy myself a little bit, and I know how to pull it back. But I think for you, that's 100%, you'll be well able for that, 1,000,000%. And I think it's just off the back of all of these little lessons that you've taught yourself, and also removing the pressures of this is perfect, removing the pressure of I have to get to 55 kilo. It was just that thing on your initial form that I looked at when you first joined back in June, was that. And I remember, I'll never forget the call that we had before you joined as well, because I don't normally actually do calls with people before they join the Mulligainz-Fitness, but you actually applied for one-to-one, and I'd stopped doing that at that stage. And I was outside the gym, and I don't know if I forgot the call or if it was something, and I had the phone call in the fucking car, so it wasn't even a professional phone call either. I'm pretty sure it was over video. I'll never forget it. I don't know why. And actually, so funny. Let's see if I can bring it up here. Let me make sure it doesn't, so I wouldn't forget, because I'm so bad at forgetting things. I had to pin you to the top of my WhatsApp, and it's still pinned to the top of my WhatsApp, and that's how long ago, the 15th to the 7th. So absolutely crazy.
No
So
way.
it's crazy to see the change of you from then until now. And I think what stood out for me on that call is you seemed so lost. You seemed at a point where you
Yeah.
felt like nutrition had to be something where you're excluding everything that you enjoy and you can't carry on with these sorts of things, and you're really caught up in that. And just to be able to play some sort of role in removing that from you, I think is massive. But how have you mentally been able to go away, enjoy yourself, go to this hen party, or go away on holidays or whatever, and come back and get back at it, not only, but also not feel guilty or feel like shit after or during?
I think it is that, like, just being aware of how you feel. Like if I have had a week where, I've been within my calories, I've been getting steps in, I've been going to the gym, going to the Pilates, going for runs, getting water, I feel great. Like I feel positive. Mentally I feel a lot better. Whereas if I have a week where I miss the gym and I have a couple of days where I go, oh, okay, I'm gonna go and get ice cream and a bottle of wine and I'm just gonna do it because that's what I want to do. I feel like shit. Like I feel like you almost feel like dirty in your body because you filled it full of crap and you know that you don't feel good for it. So I think that's part of it, is just knowing actually it's fine to do that, but it's not fine to do that all the time because you'll not feel better for it. But it's also kind of knowing it's not the end of the world. Like if you do have a weekend off to go to your friend's hen, like I've got one next month. She's one of my best friends, and we only get one go at these things. And if I do that for 2 days, have a good time with her, make sure she has the best time, and just go back to what I was doing around those 2 days, which makes me feel good, those 2 days in the grand scheme of things are not going to stack off all the progress I've made. It's just kind of keeping that perspective, is you can't have everything perfect all the time because there's always going to be stuff in life that throws you off, and it's
Yeah.
not a big deal unless you keep going and that becomes your sort of routine. So both, it's kind of keeping it in perspective. It's not the end of the world to enjoy that stuff, but also remembering how much better you'll feel if you do go back to your steps, your water, your
What
calories once you're done.
What's the first thing that you do? So say you're gone for your hen here in a month's time, and you enjoyed the shit out of it. If Monday comes around now, what's the first thing you're doing to get back?
It's a walk. So I'm lucky in that where I live, I've got really, really good walking routes. And I know like as soon as I get up the hill and I can see the Mournes in the distance, I can see Belfast Lough in the distance. That's like my happy place. So stick a podcast in, get up that hill, and then that's like the first thing that it's like hits the domino. It's like, right, I'm gonna come home and I'm gonna have a big glass of water. And then I'm gonna do the food shop for the week, and then I'm gonna make sure that my meals are planned and everything just is that first little bit of momentum. But for me it is a walk. I never feel worse for getting outside, just getting a bit of fresh air. It doesn't have to be some big strenuous gym session. It is just getting up the hill,
Yeah,
basically.
it makes it so hard when you have this big massive expectation of yourself. Oh, I have to do this, have to get back on track, have to make sure I eat every
Yeah.
meal right. And I think getting back at it when you reduce that and you just make it as simple as possible, like even for myself. So with the sugar challenge over the last couple of days, after the after being in the US, my sleep schedule is fucked. I'm like waking up at like
Yeah.
o'clock and I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed early enough as well, but it leaves me fuck all time from walk. So yesterday after the Zoom call that we do with the whole group, I was like, fuck it, sure, I'll just do 2 minutes. So I went outside and ended up walking for like 15. But I wouldn't have done that if I had in my head I have to go out and walk for an hour or I
Yeah.
have to go and do this. But I think, as you said, that small little reminder to yourself, but also, like as you talked about earlier, remind yourself about how good you feel when you are looking after your water intake and when you are getting out and doing this movement, or after a run, because before a run it feels like shit, you're never going to want to do it, or at the start it feels like shit, you're never going to want to do it. But if you remind yourself how you'll feel after, I think that's the most amazing thing. But a lot of people don't realize that, or don't realize the damage maybe nutrition is having on them. And when I talk about damage with nutrition, it's not like just having a bar of chocolate here or there or this. It's like when we're consuming highly processed foods all of the time with all of our nutrition, you don't actually realize that that's not making you feel good, because you don't feel good all of the time. And the second that you start to change your nutrition, you start higher protein, you start to maybe look after your calories and control that, you actually realize like, holy fuck, look at the difference here. And then to drop down to when you go back to eating higher processed foods over a weekend maybe, with a lot of it or a lot of drinking, you then really notice the difference between how good I was feeling and how good I wasn't, and that kind of pushes you back on. So it's kind of getting started with that first week or first 2 weeks, which is the most difficult. The other thing I wanted to touch on with you was on the forum, obviously we talked about earlier, with like a highly strenuous job. You work hard as fuck. Even a promotion, I think it was recently, which is sick, sick, sick.
Yeah.
So many good things, and working with all of this alongside trying to push on your health and fitness goals. How have you done that? When, like, you specifically stated that you used to use the excuse before as my job is too strenuous, I can't do it. How
Yeah.
did you switch that mindset, and how have you changed?
Yeah, like again, I remember that the first guy because I got his plan through and it was like 1,300 calories, 3 gym sessions a week, 10,000 steps a day. It's like, man, I don't have time for all that. There'd be days I don't have time to stop for lunch. But
Yeah,
then you sort of things like you'd see your screen time, you're like, oh my God, I've spent 4 hours on my phone today. Or you think about how much time you spend watching Netflix or how much time you spend doing things in the evening. And you sort of realize actually you could carve that time out. You just have to be a bit smarter about it. So, like last summer, for example, it was really easy for me to get up and go to the gym before work because the mornings were light and I would feel better able to get out of bed and do that before work. And I know that that was working well for me because at the end of the day, if I did have a busy day, I just couldn't, like, even though I hadn't moved because of a desk job, I'm a financial advisor, so I don't have to do anything strenuous physically for work, but mentally I'd be that tired, I just don't
yeah,
feel like doing anything. So if I was getting up and doing that in the morning, I sort of looked at it as, whenever I was working in the office, I would have to be getting up at 6 to travel into the centre of Belfast to work. Whereas now I work from home. I spend that extra hour in bed when I could spend that extra hour going to the gym or, doing something that makes time for my goals. But the thing I found recently, and this is why I've changed gyms, is because I started Pilates in January. So this studio opened up like 5 minutes from my house, and I just thought, I like the look of that. I'll try that. And that's again just shows how much I've changed because
sick,
before I would be like, oh no, that's not for me. It looks too scary. I couldn't have done that. Whereas I was like, I'm interested in this. And now I go 2 or 3 times a week. And
sick.
I think it's having a class and having a space in a class that if you're not there, someone else could have filled that space or the trainer's waiting for you. So that's been really good as well. Is, if I book a class, I have to book it into my working day. I know they need to be finished by 7:30 at night because I have to make that class. And that's why I've changed gyms. So I'm going to the same gym as my husband and our two best friends. The four of us can go together. And I think it'll just give me a bit more accountability because if he's going, it's easy for him to be like, just get in the car and come with me and vice versa. Or if one of our friends is going, I can meet them there rather than the gym I go to or was going to before, again, is a 5 minute walk. So I was like, there's no excuse for me not to go, but I would find excuses not to go. So I've definitely sort of thought, right, that'll help booking classes and also having a friend to go or having my husband to go to
Yeah.
the gym with.
I think because so many, again, this would be a thing a lot of PTs are against is classes and stuff. But I'm quite similar. So like I would have started off like similar to what you were talking about there of your journey of exercise. I would have started off going to the gym by myself a lot of the time, just going into the gym, and it was good for the start. I enjoyed it. It was putting on weights onto the bar, whatever. Then I got to a certain point where that wasn't enjoyable anymore for me, so I started doing kickboxing classes, whatever. Really enjoyed that, and I started doing strength training for the sake of getting better at that. And I think when you have that class, you have that community. It's one of the key aspects of why I created the Mulligan's method, anyways, in the first place. Is when you create that community of people who know each other, people who are relying on each other, people who are chatting back and forth, and you have that environment. It makes it much easier to partake in health and fitness because most people, if they think of like the 6, 7 closest people they know, some people that would think don't none of them even go to the gym. Not one single person even engaged in health, or not one single person of them probably even knows anything about calories or nutrition or anything. So it's very hard to start a journey when you're in a position like that. So the fact that like you even have to support your husband is absolutely unbelievable. The fact that you're going to the gym together, now that you have the Pilates class as well, is fucking sick because you have another form of exercise that you can rely on. And if it got to the point where you're like sick of Pilates, okay, let's go back and try the running again. Let's go back and try the weightlifting again. And having multiple different options of what you can do is class. And anyone that says that Pilates is easy, right? Fucking hell. I seen one of the lads that I'd be good friends with that was in sports
Yeah.
science, and he said to me he did reformers Pilates, and I was like, that's definitely fucked, that's shite or whatever. I didn't say it was shite because any form of exercise is good, but I meant in a way of like, that can't be that difficult. And then he was like, Usheen, try it. And I looked at classes online, I was like, fuck, I would not be able for that. It's really tough.
See, that's what I do is the reformer one with the machine, and she's trying to get like an all male class because there's no men go to it; it's all women. But she found there was some Pilates studio in Australia got like bricklayers and tradies to come in and do a reformer class, and they found it really hard. So she's trying to do like a bring your partner or an all male class just to show like it's a tough workout. It's all body weight stuff. I
Yeah.
can definitely see, like, I've been going to the gym for nearly, what, 9 months now, but I've been going to Pilates for 2 months, and I can see more of a difference in my body, especially my arms and my shoulders.
Yeah, yeah. I think people underestimate that. It's like really with any form of exercise, I suppose people underestimate it if they don't do it. I think the people think
Yeah.
most people think that the gym, this is another thing, most people think the gym or going and lifting weights is the only form of exercise that's the best and everybody has to do it. But it's more so like, okay, resistance training is beneficial, but what you're actually doing in Pilates is a form of resistance training anyways. Even the actual feckin' machine that you use is using different resistances against yourself, so you're pushing against it. It's the same thing. But some people just see that
Mhm.
weightlifting is, but there's so many different forms of exercise out there, and you should give them all a go. Try one after another. And as you said, the best way to do that is sign up for class. Like one of the key things that you actually said at the start of this, and for anyone listening, is like if you're really scared of going to the gym, you're really anxious, really nervous. If you ring up a gym and you ask them, look, I'm really nervous, really anxious, can you show me around? Can you do something? I guarantee you that they'll give you a free PT session because they want your membership. They want you to sign up. Or any PTs out there, it's a good way to get you in the door, show and have a chat with who you are, or what you're kind of about. And then generally anyone who comes in will sign up to your program thereafter. It's what I used to do when I was back doing in-person PTs as well, was look, I'll offer a free session if you want to come in, have a look, have a go around, and it really gets a person comfortable. But they'll show you to the people around. And Kat last week
Yeah.
was talking, or yesterday or the day before when we recorded a podcast, was talking about how when she got into the gym, they introduced her to others in the class, or introduced her to others who were in there, and it made her feel really, really comfortable. And I think that's key. If you can create that community and get to know people, that'll make a massive difference. So I want to get from you three bits, three of your favorite tips or three of your favorite things that have maybe worked the most for you over the last little while, regarding maybe body image or regarding going to the gym or just overall how you've made the change in yourself.
Biggest ones, write it down. I think that's made the biggest difference for me. Write down what is in your head, and especially before and after you do something active, like even if it's just going for a walk, write down how you feel immediately before, immediately after. It just helps me, like, challenge that part of me that's still very negative, that self-talk that can sometimes creep in, because the louder that gets, the less I want to do. So that would be the main one. I think the second one would be, when it comes to body image, is just sort of have a look at yourself in the mirror, how you feel before you weigh yourself, because the scale can only tell you so much, like we said. And actually, while mine hasn't budged too much in the last 2 weeks, it's not getting me down. But I did decide to stop weighing for a week because I thought it might, and I didn't want that to happen, because
Yeah.
I was feeling good. I was feeling really confident, and like I put that message in the group. I go to the class now wearing leggings and a sports bra, and I never, ever, ever thought I would be confident enough to do that. Because last year I'd been like, oh, but I've got this wee pooch on my tummy that people can see, or if I'm in this pose, what must that look like? And
Yeah.
now I just don't care as much, because actually the studio's roasting and it's a lot more comfortable to go just in that. So why would I be uncomfortable? It's kind of Park's point. Like, yes, I could go in a t-shirt and I would feel more comfortable in my own skin being like covered up in the class, but then I would be roasting. I'd be more uncomfortable anyway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of helped. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm trying to
No,
think
no,
of a
100%.
third.
Yeah, it's always hard. I when people ask me for three tips, I'll word it in a different way for the last one because I think it'll be important because this is how I think about things before I create a video. But you might be able to apply maybe the tip because I can see you. I think you have one in your head now again. Just with the two tips that you gave there, absolutely brilliant. Writing things down, making things clear to yourself, and then also the body image side of things of like again working on it. Make sure that you're writing down how you're feeling before you're stepping on the scales, rather than letting that decide. But also pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. So going and maybe the first time that you wore that sports bra and your leggings into the gym, you probably didn't feel the most comfortable. But over time, now it just becomes a normal, and you build that up. And
Yeah.
it's another question I have for you after. But before we get on to that, is the like what would so for your final tip, if you were stuck, what I was going to say to you was, what would you go back and say to Rachel 6 months ago in June? What would be the one thing that you'd say to her?
Just, it sounds a bit cheesy, but just to have a bit more self-belief. Like, I've learned over the last like 9 months or however long I've been in, like I can do stuff that I think I can't. I just can.
Yeah,
Like, I can go for that job and I got it. I can go and enjoy my sister's wedding and I can still lose weight. Like, all these things I tell myself I'm not able to do. I can. So you just have to build like this bank of evidence for yourself. Like you set foot in the gym, so you can also go in and lift the weight, or you've run for 5 minutes, so you can run for 7 minutes, or you've done the beginner class, so you can do the more advanced class. Like it's just believing that you can. And I think that's probably been one of the things that's helped me make the most progress, is I've just been like, I'll try this, I'll do this, and I'll see how it goes. And it's not like a, if I went to that Pilates class and I didn't enjoy it, at least I tried it, rather than just looking at the videos on her page and being like, oh, I can never do that, and I'd never know. So
Yeah.
I think if I could go back and just be like, just tell yourself you can and give it a go and see what happens, and just have the courage to try, rather than tell yourself not to bother.
Yeah, and I think it's like so many people get caught up in that thing straight away of, I'm not able to do this, I can't do this, I'm not able, or like they just, again, anything to allow themselves to escape the feeling of maybe the failure they think they're going to experience. But if you think about anything in the past that you've ever experienced, it's never really been failure from it. It's just like, oh, I just won't do that again or whatever. And like everybody, so I guarantee in the Pilates class, you're probably not going to want to hear this over your 6 months time in that Pilates class or your year's time. You're going to fucking make a mistake. You probably already have. You're probably going to set the wrong resistance on it or fucking have a laugh. But people think that that's the end of the world, but your mindset has switched now. And it's in scientific research as well that there's two types of people that will see that and the challenge and a failure is something that to learn from and push forward, and other people to see that as something to run away from. And it's the people that see that as something to run away from that really, really struggle to succeed. But I think over the last, say, even couple of months, probably even before that, because a lot of people have that developed from a younger age to, okay, let's just keep trying to push myself out of my comfort zone. This doesn't mean that it's the end. But especially when it comes to that job, because I think job and that side of things is way more stressful than the fat loss aspect and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. They get confidence to do that. If you got the confidence to go and apply for this job and apply for this promotion and do all this stuff, that's much more scary than going to the gym. So I'm well able to go to the gym then. So what I tell people to do, or I try to tell people to do, is think back to the worst thing that's ever happened to you, or loads of different things that you've experienced that are really, really difficult. Have you made it through them? Well, then if you go to the gym and you find going to the gym tough, or you smash a weight on the ground or you do something stupid, you're going to be able to get through that too. And it's just about fucking the thing of, I love that. I don't know if you've ever seen the meme of your man that draws on the whiteboard with the graph and is like, how much you fuck around is how much you find out. The more you fuck around, the more you find out. I thought it was class, because it's so true with everything. And I think a lot of people remove themselves from that because they don't want to experience that feeling of failure when actually there is no don't feeling failure. Like I wouldn't be posting videos online, I wouldn't be doing any of this, I wouldn't have the Mulligan's method if I was afraid of it failing. First time before I launched it to get people in the door, before I knew you guys, I didn't know if there was a single person there even going to think about joining the fucking thing. I didn't know how people were going to get on, because it's a completely different style of coaching as to what I did before or what other people have done before. So I think if you fuck around, you'll find out with this sort of thing. And there's always, like, if you went into that Pilates class, you hated it, just like fuck off and never go back, or just leave, and that's fine. No one ever needs to see it again. But it's not fine. Even with your job, if you went for that job interview and you didn't get it, it's like, fuck it, I'll be more experienced for the next one. I'll know what to say to get the next one, or I'll have more information to say.
I know, it's not the end of the world. No matter what happens, at least you tried, because it's that kind of, even if you can't get the result you want, you're still going to get something from it, whether it's a learn, whether it's experience. So yeah, I just feel like I'm a totally different person in so many different ways for being in this.
Good. I think a lot of people kind of a lot of people with weight loss or with everything don't realize the impact it has on so many different aspects of your life. And it's not even the weight loss. It's like doing the thing that you didn't think you could do over and over again is completely changing your mindset, and then allows you to do other things that you didn't think you could do. Like, again, the experience for you to be able to go and wear your sports bra and your leggings into a gym class is going to leave you more confident going to a hen party wearing a dress, and being able to have a time without having to think about, fuck, what's someone going to think when they're looking at me like this. And even with the body image aspect, like, if I get you to go back and think to when you went to your Pilates class, or maybe because it's recent enough, you probably will, but let's say go to the gym 6 months ago when you went to the gym on Friday. Do you remember? I bet you couldn't even think of 10 people that you've seen in the gym. Bet you can't even remember what color clothes they were wearing. So you're definitely not going to remember what lumps or bumps they had or what they look like in their clothes. But in your head, it's instantly like, when I go to gym, everyone's going to see this and remember this, and they're going to think I'm fat and lazy and all this other sort of stuff, when it's actually not true whatsoever.
And as if someone would ever come up to you and be like, would you tuck that bit of fat back into your legs?
You'd smack, you'd right. I don't know if you would, but I would.
Not going to happen.
I'd have to slap them. I'd be cancelled off Instagram. Anyone sees you in Belfast now around, stay away because you might throw a slap.
It's just even like it's like you say, like one little bit of success makes you think, oh, I can do something else. Like I only started running over Christmas because me and my little sister took ourselves off on Boxing Day, and she was doing Couch to 5K, and she's like, "Do you want to come try it with me? And then I'll try and do some weight stuff with you." And I just was instantly like, "Oh, I love this! I can do this! Like I'm enjoying this." And now I'm already talking about I want to do a half marathon this year,
Yeah,
and I'm saying that like I want to try and do it. It's going to be hard. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try and I'll see how it goes.
yeah.
So it's even just like having the having the confidence to go for something bigger because you just think, well, if I can do this, I can do this, and I can keep building.
Yeah, I think with the running thing, that's actually a good thing to touch on. I'll leave that as the last question because I won't keep annoying the shite out of you. With the running, what would be your tips for someone starting, or someone wanting to maybe try running or has it in the back of their head that like I've thought about running before and I want to do it. There's this funny thing just before you answer. I think it's called a Zionic loop or some random shit, but it's when you create a thought in your head about doing something that loop doesn't close, so that thought will go round and round and round, and the more times that you avoid it or don't do it, the greater that it gets and the harder it actually is to do the thing because you're going to consistently tell yourself that you can't do it. So there's a guy, James Smith, everyone probably knows him, he's a really good personal trainer. He's really nice guy as well, genuine as fuck, but he talks about in one of his books, but he talks about it in a perspective of asking for a girl's number or asking for a number off someone, or you see someone that you want to talk to and then you don't. When you don't do it, then it gives you less confidence to go and do it the next time. But that loop doesn't close because then when you go to do it the next time, the thought of the last time you went to do it and you
Yeah.
didn't comes back. And so it's the same thing with running and the same thing with getting into the gym. The more time that you leave it, the harder it is to do it because you keep proving to yourself you can't. So for you, how did you break it? How did you start? Or what would be your tips for people?
First thing's playlist. Like your playlist is everything. Like I found songs that I just, as soon as I hear them, like it's the perfect pace I like to run. I know that that song lasts 7 minutes, so when I get to the end of that song, I maybe only have 5 minutes to go. So get a playlist that you love, but also like remember when I got to, I think it was week 5, run 3 is like the classic drop off point because it's a 20-minute continuous run that's quite a step up. And me and my little sister were doing it at the same time, and she had tried it and didn't quite get it on the first try. And I was like, right, I'm just gonna try. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can't, but I'm just gonna try. And I did it comfortably. And I texted her. I was like, I've just done the 20 minutes, and I feel like I had more in the tank, and I was just buzzing. So then, whenever it's come to the bigger runs, building up 25 minutes, 30 minutes, I'm like, I could do 20, and it's not that much more, so I'm gonna be able to do it. So if you tell yourself you can't, I think you won't. But if you tell yourself you'll give it a go, or
Yeah.
if you tell yourself you can, you're more likely to. So again, it's just belief.
Yeah. And that thing of like where you started quite small and building up and thinking back, oh, if I can do 5 minutes, I can do 10 minutes. If I can do 10 minutes, I can do 15 minutes. It's a class way of thinking about it. I was doing the exact same thing when I came to the marathon last year. I was like, oh, I did a half marathon before. I can definitely fucking finish this. Boy, was I wrong coming towards the end of it, but it works. It's the same when it comes to any sort of run. Like when you're running as well, like what defines a perfect run or defines that you've completed it or haven't. It's like getting that distance. So if your goal was to run 10K or get 10K finished, well, if you run and you have to walk for a kilometer in between, you still finished the run. You still got your 10 kilometer distance.
Yeah.
Whether it's 1 kilometer you're trying to run or 20, just because you walk in between and slow down a little bit doesn't mean you fail. That's what stops most people from actually getting into running in the first place. Is they go and run and then they end up walking. They're like, oh, sure, I fucked this up. I can't do this. And then they try run super fast. Again, as you talked about there, is like setting your playlist to the perfect pace, to a playlist that's not going to make you run really, really quickly or get out of your comfort zone. You're running at a pace where you enjoy it. That's the main thing. There's no point fucking going running if you don't enjoy it. Unless you want to become Usain Bolt or whoever runs the marathons. I actually don't even know who wins them. I feel like that would be the most miserable sport to watch, is watch someone run a marathon. But don't tell me that. I couldn't stand and watch a TV show of someone run a marathon. But
Not for
anyways,
me.
yeah. So I think if you see it as that of like as long as I put my step forward, I keep walking, I keep moving, I'm going to finish it and slow it down. I think it's super key as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
anything you want to fire across, anything you had in your head before you jumped on the podcast that you wanted to get out. If so, get it out. If not, we'll finish it up.
No, I think it is just creating that first bit of momentum. Like we've talked about If you wait to be motivated, sometimes you will be. Sometimes I am. If like, yeah, I'm buzzing to go to the gym, or I'm excited to do this, but I don't always feel like that. If you just do one thing, whether that's a glass of water, whether that's the walk, that one thing will have a ripple effect on everything else.
Yeah.
And I think it is that like little bank of evidence for yourself of belief. Like the 50 wins thing was really good that we did, just to go back and realize actually there's so much that I've done over these last 6 weeks or 8 weeks. And then, even the first kilo, if you lost 1 kilo, you can lose two, and you can lose three, and you can lose four. So it's just breaking it down into those smaller chunks and reflecting on every little win, because it's easier when you do your check-ins, for example, to put in the bit that you struggled with. But actually 50 wins challenge, it was really, really hard, but it was really good to just sit and go, actually look at how much I've done over these last couple of months.
Yeah, and I think that's actually something that I might do again soon. But anyone that's listening, essentially what it is a challenge to write out 50 things that you're proud of yourself for over the last 6 months. And actually, when you get to like number 20, you're like, fuck, I can't think of any more. So you start writing out all the small little things that you've taken. Then you actually realize at the end, fuck, I actually have done a lot. But the reason we get to people to do that, and Dan Morgan is the guy who came across and did that with me actually when I was struggling a bit last year to business stuff. You still have the link. So sick. It's so cool, but it's so cool to have. I actually have mine written down in a notebook. I used to have it written up on my whiteboard, but I had to wipe it off to stick other things up on it. But the reason is, as you talked about there, think of a house. You walk into a house, right? You're on the bottom floor of a house. This is where most people kind of start, right? And then after you start, you're not really on the bottom floor of a house anymore because you're implementing small little steps. So you end up on the second floor, and then you end up on the third floor, fourth floor, whatever. You might be on the fifth floor, which would, let's say the fifth floor represents you losing 5 kilos. But it's very easy for you to stand on that fifth floor and look at it as if you're on a floor rather than the ceiling, number 5. Right? So if we look at it, we can either see as we're on the floor, or we can see on 5 floors up. And that's where it's super important to actually highlight your 5 floors up rather than being stuck on the ground floor. Because if you're constantly stuck on the ground floor, it's easy to go out and walk out the fucking front door you just walked in and give up altogether. We want to avoid that. We don't want it to be easy to walk out that door. And it's very hard to walk out that door if we're up on the 5th floor. We have to come down 5 floors to then fuck off and give up altogether. So to do that is super key. And it's something that not a lot of people are comfortable doing, because when you're writing down things that are good about ourselves, especially Irish people, for some reason, we're always really, really good at talking about all the bad shit that we did, all the struggles. But if you get used to actually writing out the 50 things that you're proud of, and you do it on a consistent basis, you'll actually bang together. It's actually cool. Dan, I do believe, has a notebook. Maybe it wasn't Dan, maybe it was someone else I was chatting to, where the 50 wins or a lot of the wins are just stacked. So at the end of the year, they have a whole notebook full of all of the wins that they've gotten, and they force themselves to write down like 10 or so a week. And so then they flick back through the end and they're like, holy fuck, look at all these wins. You have like, 100 pages full of all the wins that you've accumulated over the last little while. But yeah, super key and good one to bring up, because I always forget to highlight that to people, because most people that are on a weight loss journey or trying to change their lives in some way are super self-conscious, or like it's easy to be negative, because most people that struggle with their weight, they give up straight away, or they start something, they're like, I'm a failure, I can't do this, I'm not able. And it's from the mindset of like maybe things back in the past, loads of other aspects maybe knocking their confidence, and then it's very easy to beat yourself up. So what you want to do is start to build that confidence back, to start build back that thing. And as you said, the evidence multiple times, that's a perfect word for it, is the evidence that you are able to do these sorts of things, or that you can do it. And how you'll do that is by stacking up your wins, and eventually then when you come to the next thing you have to get through, you're like, fuck it, look at all these things that I've completed or I've ticked off, I'm well able to do this, and start off with the small ones. Like, how I describe it is like, if you walked up to a staircase where the steps were fucking 10 foot tall, you'd be like, I'm never going to be able to climb up to stop that, so you just fuck off and don't climb the staircase. If you went up to the staircase and there was tiny little steps that you didn't even know were steps, and you're walking forward, it's easy to get to the top. It doesn't feel as bad. A good example of this is Crow Patrick in Ireland. Don't know if you've done it, Rachel, have you?
I haven't, no.
You'll have
done quite a few in the mornings up here, but never done Crow Patrick.
Crow Patrick's a bit like that, because at the start of Crow Patrick, it's just like a path upwards, and then you get to a certain point where there's fucking steps, and the steps are an absolute killer. They're just fucking like this tall, and you have to step up every single one of them. It's a good, I just thought of it in my head there, but yeah, I recommend you climb that, although it'll be fucking painful. Maybe we'll do it with a Mulligainz method meetup at some stage. It'll be a funny one. But for sure, the next one, I won't keep you much longer because we're on here almost an hour. But I always get people to do it. So I want you to list 3 of your favorite things that you've ticked off over the last, it doesn't even have to be with just in the program, but over maybe the last year, of 3 of your favorite things, whether it be health, fitness related or outside of that. Just again, a little bit to be proud of yourself and actually back yourself here a little bit. So 3 of your favorite wins that you've accumulated over the last while.
I might have to go back through my 50 list.
Because
It's
the
what
thing is, if I
I
said
do like to have it. I've kept it. It's still there.
yeah, if I said three of the things that you fucked up with, I guarantee you'd list them out straight away like that.
Like I do think the 60 kilo deadlift is up there because I only started that. It was in the gym a couple of months before I started that, and it was because I went with Andy, and he was like, "You should just try this," because him and his buddy Zach, they go to the gym together. They're mad into deadlifts, and whenever I thought, "Oh, I'll try 60, I'll aim for the sky," kind of thing. It was kind of like me saying the half marathon. It was almost like it's this
Yeah.
big pie in the sky dream, but maybe I could do it, and I did. And then I've kept pushing on, pushing on. So that's probably up there because it's a similar thing to like the Pilates, the marathon, anything is just if you just set a big goal, you
You
give
do
yourself some sort of belief you can do it.
sick.
What else?
I
It's so hard. It's so hard to think of three.
one of the other biggest ones is you're able to wear your sports bra and your leggings getting into the fucking gym.
Yeah,
That's fucking sick. I think
that's
unreal.
definitely one.
That's unreal.
Definitely.
And staying consistent with
Yeah.
the calorie deficit and losing weight over the last little while, from a point where you didn't believe. Like I actually, to be honest, how little I give a fuck about what a person weighs is. I don't know what you did weigh at the start. I could go and check quickly and see the difference, but I don't know how much. You probably have an idea of how much you're down.
Yeah. So I'm four kilos down, and I
Sick.
was 73 and a half when we started, 69 and a half now.
Okay.
And sometimes I would have sort of, again, if the negative self-talk comes in, sometimes I would be like, oh, I'm not actually as far along as I thought I would be at this point. But then I'm kind of more realizing that I just need to figure out how I feel as I keep coming down, because
Yep.
actually the 55 number doesn't mean anything to me now. If I get down to 65 or 62 and I feel good and I actually don't want to lose anymore, I'll stop. But I don't think I've reached that point yet, but I'm definitely reaching a point now where I'm like, actually, I'm back to like a size 10. I'm back to feeling a bit more comfortable in my own skin. I don't know that I need to push on anymore. I'll keep doing it, but rather than have this obsession with, oh, I have to be 55 because that's what the NHS says I have to be, I'll just sort of sense it as I go, I think now.
Super key as well, and it's so easy to sit there. Like a lot of people get in that mindset of like, oh fuck, I've only lost 4 kilos, only lost this amount of weight, but this person has lost 12, and it's like, okay, if we take in the consideration the last say year and compare your year to their year and their lifestyle, what is the difference? So for example, like getting a job promotion, the 2 weeks there beforehand and then the week after, exams I do believe as well, if I remember correctly, throughout that time as well. Christmas time throughout that time as well. And then if we look back and see like your body weight isn't 100 plus, your body weight isn't 200, like some people that I would work with would be upwards of 400 pounds, especially when I was doing one. And in that situation, if someone who was 400 pounds and only lost a kilo, is it a rate of weight loss that I'd be like, oh fuck, that is a decent rate of weight loss? No, probably not. But at the end of the day, any weight loss is probably good towards that person's health. So when it comes to you with the 4 kilos, and 4 kilos sounds like a small number, I actually hate that. Multiply by 2.2 and you get what, like 12, 18 pounds in around there. I don't know what it is. My math is fucking terrible. But you should, the financial advisor in you is probably just like gushing your stomach.
It sounds better in pounds. Yeah, it's nearly a stone in pounds, which is pretty good.
Yeah, so that's sick. And again, when it comes to the weight loss aspect, I would reckon if you got to 55 kilos, your health would be more negative than it is now and than it actually was when you first started. If you got to 55 kilos, you tested your blood work and you tested your blood work before you got started, 1,000,000% I'd bet my fucking whatever's in my bank account on the fact that you'd be more unhealthy. And that's something that not a lot of people realize as well, is that lowering weight doesn't mean you're healthier. And when you think back to your journey as well, right, so if we go back to the beginning and go to where you are now, and we eliminated the gym, eliminated you going out and moving around, my dog's going to go crazy here in the background, moving around, and we eliminated everything like that, your muscle mass would be lower, and therefore your scale weight would actually probably be lower. So you'd probably be sitting in around 65 kilos now without the movement. Because how do you go from not deadlifting, pushing on your deadlift, training your deadlift, and going to a 60 kilo deadlift without having built muscle? How do you get faster in your running without building muscle or somehow improving some form of muscle mass to fat ratio? You have had had to have improved something here in order for that to change. And then the 4 kilos on top of it. Fucking class. And I think it's very easy for people to sit and compare themselves to someone else. Like, if you clicked on Instagram right now, scroll, I bet you within the first 5 scrolls you come across someone on Instagram that is saying that, oh, I look this certain way, or it's better, or whatever the fuck you're seeing, or showing off a certain thing. And it's very easy for you to compare yourself to that person. But then if you actually sit back and look at it, like, look at your job. Like, even for me, sedentary job where I'm sat at home, if I was to compare myself to other, say, PTs that are maybe on the gym floor and move around a lot more, it's actually a lot more difficult for me to get up and get my steps in. So I'd be expected to get 10K according to them. But according to me, knowing myself, I'm like 6.5 is a good range for me to aim for. And if I can get that. So for you, it's a good kind of thing to recognize.